3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, granitegrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from granitegrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, so I was ranting about the New Hampshire House having no gonads, and Skip said I had to continue. But before I do that, I wanted to welcome you to Grok Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you are a podcast listener on Stitcher, iTunes, Spreaker, I wrote it down, iHeart, TuneIn, Tumblr, YouTube, Ustream, and even Blip TV. We'd like to remind you, as we always do, that we are on Facebook and Twitter. Please like us, follow us, and share what we produce and put up there, because it spreads the word. And he's getting the stick out. Uh-oh. He said he was going to poke me with the stick if I didn't talk about what I was talking about. Anyway, we had been... Ow! Hey, that's the pointy end. All right. Thank you for the pointy end of your stick. We were talking about WTFs in the pre-show. And are you knighting me now? Oh, okay, that's the soft end. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, we were talking about some interesting bills this week, and I'm going to turn on some microphones because he wanted me to rant. I can't rant if you're talking, right?
Rant on.
Rant on. Rant. Anyway, we were talking about legislation and the New Hampshire House and HB 357 being converted into a gas tax, and of course Skip and Mike were talking about how we have this governor who's raised the budget by $1 billion in her budget, her proposed budget, and how the media controls the message, and the Republicans are horrible at controlling the message, and how the media is talking about how Republicans want to cut some of this $1 billion expansion. And that's the news. It's this news. And at the same time, they're on the other side. They're trying to raise gas taxes and all this other crap. It's ridiculous.
You know, I look at what the DOT is saying. Well, we have to lay off half our employees. Part of me is saying, well, that's not a bad start. One of the essential things of government is, I think, to take care of the roads. So in some ways, it's not a great deal. But this is a problem that government has caused for government itself. And the guys, you can put it anywhere you want there, Mr. Max. Oh, he makes us look like slobs. You know that?
He does.
You know, Mr. Max Abrams. Oh, gosh, it's a Monday morning on Saturday. I'm sorry. Has just joined us, and he's in a nice suit and a striped collared shirt.
He doesn't have a little mitt on the end of his microphone.
Oh.
You're going to have to go find that.
We'll have to find
Max
one.
will be joining us momentarily, and we also have, from the John Birch Society, Hal Shurtleff's calling in to talk about the Constitutional Convention movement that's going on. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us this guest, because we always try to bring guests in. We would have had a few more this week, but we were trying to wrangle a prospective presidential candidate.
This one.
And because we didn't know what segment we were going to get them in, we didn't book anybody else, and of course we didn't book them either, so now we have open segments, and that's okay.
We're working on it.
Because we can fill that time.
And, you bet.
And you never know who might show up. We have the right to know people are having a nice meeting next door. I mean, maybe we can wrangle one of them in here.
Yeah.
So there's always possibilities. There's always going to be more guests. So you got that over there? Okay. We won't videotape that because that's naughty.
Steve.
He's putting a little knit hat on his microphone.
Right. So anyways.
Interesting.
I look at this whole week
Steve,
with the House.
You're slightly out of order. It's a Mickey warmer, not a Willy warmer.
Gosh, how do I follow that? But anyways, it's a case of...
keep talking. That's what we...
Here's the NHGOP is now... They didn't learn from last year and the year before that how the base hated this gas tax, where most of us see government has created this problem, and now you're going to sock us with more cost because you guys can't straighten things out. And we're seeing it once again. You know, they hate to hear it, but when they do stupid stuff like this, it does give rise to the meme of there's not a dime's difference between the two parties. If you're going to tax us again, like the Democrats would love to do it, and the Democrats are laughing all over this. They think this is hysterical, that the Republicans are doing their own job. Republicans, at least let them lead on something like this, you fools. If you're going to get... I'm having a meltdown here.
Okay, well, we can move on to something else. Justice.
We can raise all the money we need by having a tax on Chardonnay and Brie.
Touche, Max.
We could always, if we taxed liberal outrage, we'd be rolling in cash, wouldn't we?
Oh, speaking of liberal outrage, we haven't put it up on the camera.
Oh, that's
yet.
right. I brought this back from CPAC for one purpose, and one purpose
yeah,
only,
let's not tax
and that was
brains.
to outrage liberals. Look up there.
Yeah.
Palin on horseback, and the only speculation is whether she's carrying a large gun or a small gun.
I'm not a fan of the whole posters of politicians thing. I don't do that. I think that's creepy. But this will piss off Democrats, and so I'm okay with that.
Well, you know what we do need to do is get Obama in his mom pants on the bicycle and put it up next to Palin. But then again, you also brought back a couple other little thingies too.
I did. We have the Big Government Sucks at biggovernmentsucks.com.
Mac,
we have the LOL thing.
Yeah, Max are gonna. Yeah, hold on just a second. Just let me just get a
couple other things. I actually have a Rand Paul poster around here somewhere. Somebody handed me.
There we go. Big Government
I'll get it signed
Sucks.
and raffle it off to some Free Stater. Maybe they'll give us a bunch of money for it. We can use it to buy another headset.
Yeah, we are still looking for another headset. We are still grateful to Alvin C. for donating the money. We are very grateful for the new headset. But yeah, we're still looking for another one, and now we have another need for more software. So.
Yeah, well, we have lots of needs. But anyway, we're going to move on because Max is here, and it's his segment, baby. And you can, of course, stay as long as you want because we have a guest at 9:30, but the rest of the show is open. So anyway, hi there.
Hi, it was good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
There was quite a bit that happened over the last month regarding criminal justice. And before I start, the Right to Work bill came up. That was the only hotly disputed bill in the last week before we broke. And I think it was in the last bill on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So it was special ordered, so it was held off to the very, very end. It was the absolute final vote, and of course, everyone wanted to get home. People were leaving.
It arrived by FedEx, special order? I had to, Max. Sorry.
So,
actually, UPS.
FedEx is non-union, so
UPS.
Everyone was. Of course, the decision of whether or not to work in a union shop or non-union shop is up to the worker. And some people believe even if you're working in a union shop, it should still be up to the worker. So there was this tremendously long debate that dragged on for over half an hour. Everyone wanted to go home. And, of course, came up after Al Baldessaro spoke for about 10 minutes himself. And the vote came to 149 to 146. The committee recommended ought to pass. It's a Republican committee. It passed. Bill O'Brien went up and made the motion to reconsider.
What?
Yep. Bill O'Brien went up to make the motion to reconsider in order to prevent them from bringing the issue back up. So he made the motion ought to pass, or made the motion to reconsider and asked people to vote no. They voted no, mainly because they wanted to get home. This time that passed by about 25 votes. So it's passed through the House. Police and fire are exempt, but it's moving on to the state Senate where they're currently in a deadlock. So one state senator being sick at home or stepping out to use the restroom could result in it passing, but it would just go to the governor's desk. And last time when it went to John Lynch's desk, of course the unions put over $110,000 into his campaign despite the fact that he was not running for re-election. And he then very quickly vetoed it just as the money was coming in.
And retired with the money.
Who knows what happens?
It's in his campaign, so he can donate to other campaigns.
Yeah, well, you just have to see the union money every time there's an election when the giant trucks show up with posters on the sides for their favorite politician of the day.
Well, yesterday I wrote, can we ask some New Hampshire fourth graders to submit the next Right to Work bill?
So it'll lose by 17 votes?
Yeah, no,
I've
that's just the...
I've got a story on that. I don't know if you'll allow me to talk about the Red Tail Hawk bill.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it made Fox News. It's gone viral nationally.
It's all over the news. I sent out a press release on it last night. I was part of the debate. Now, those kids from the Lincoln Ackerman School are from my district. They come from Hampton Falls. Mm-hmm. And I sat on the bench. There's a picture of me on Facebook that has me sitting on the bench as Representative Burt is ridiculing the bill and the idea. And some of the parents agreed from Hampton Falls. Some of the parents agreed that all these different bills about the state mastodon and spending time on declaring the bobcat to be the state wildcat and so on and so forth. There are 4 different symbolic bills, and they feel that it's a big waste of time and it costs a lot of money to keep the House in session at something like $17,000 a day. But I really felt that the red-tailed hawk making it the state raptor, I thought that was fair. There are states with state raptors. There are all kinds of different state symbols. Unfortunately, as happens, the debate got a little bit silly, and if you've ever seen a floor debate in the State House, there's quite a bit of ridicule. They don't attack fellow representatives. They attack how silly the bill is. And the kids were not upset, from what I saw. They were not upset about the Planned Parenthood comment, but I did see that they were upset sitting from the bench, looking up in the gallery, seeing the kids up there. And Representative Elena Hearn was with them, former representative, and former Representative Don Gorman was also up in the gallery. And the debate dropped to the level that we're used to seeing. And I got up, I was getting ready to get up to speak, and Jasper calls Representative Groen to come down, and he makes these graphic remarks about a red-tailed hawk ripping his prey limb from limb, and then he makes the Planned Parenthood remark, which I thought was, my impression at the time was that was over the top, and it was completely off topic, and it was completely inappropriate for the State House.
Well, I would have...
You did that, not me.
I know. I would have said I would agree with the kids there because they don't get the Planned Parenthood. They don't understand how some abortions do rip the unborn baby, into pieces before it is brought out. I think that probably should have been left alone. I think it may have been an apt simile for that, but outside of what the bill was for this time around with the kids in the gallery. But this is what happened. You're right. This is what happens, as you said. It descended to the regular House level. This is politics, and I told the most esteemed wife as I was sitting on the couch watching this that this is what happens, and sometimes the kids are going to get crushed. Not all bills make it through, no matter how little the kids are. They're trying to do this. I'm sorry. It happens.
There was a Democrat who got up and spoke. There were Democrats and Republicans on both sides of this debate. Bipartisan opposition and bipartisan support. It passed the committee, but it only passed 10-8. So when it comes close like that, people tend to not follow the committee recommendation. So the committee only pulled about 133 votes, and there were 160 votes against. And the Democrat representatives were just as demeaning as Groen was. But it was actually Representative Burt's comments. They were very much on. He was very much on his game, but he was reverting to the, ridicule the bill approach. And it wasn't so much the words that he said, but the way that he said it. I was sitting there. Now, here's the picture. The photo on Facebook is me sitting there looking up at these kids, gauging their reaction, and how difficult it must have been for them. They worked for almost a year on this. They spent a tremendous amount of time. They went to the hearings. They had to schedule the field trips, take days off, one for the hearing, one for the, and a lot of them took recess off and did the research and found out what RSAs are. And now they're up there watching this 20-minute floor debate, and they're watching their bill get torn apart limb from limb by these representatives.
Give them $100 in a parking space.
They were much classier. I'll give them credit. The kids were much classier than any of the representatives. Now, I got up and spoke, and my arguments had already been taken. I came up with a paper just like this, and I came up with my bullet points, and I was ready to just give a kind of canned floor speech in favor of it. But when your arguments in favor have already been used, it's considered poor taste it's considered not to be appropriate to go up and repeat someone else's arguments. So I had to go up and argue that the raptor is completely different from birds like the purple finch, which is our state bird. And so I kind of made a logical case for we have a right, we have the right to have a state raptor. And for 4 or 5 or 6 days, that was the end of it. There were parents in my district complaining about it, rightly, about the quality of the debate and how their bill was being demeaned. But it wasn't picked up until probably about 5 days after that. And Representative Groen's been asked a number of times for apologies. His phone mailbox, I tried to call him, is full. I've tried to email him. Other people have tried to email him, and he's been on the news media a number of times, and people are trying to get a hold of him, and they're not able to. So it's amazing that this story's gone viral, but it wasn't even the quality of the debate or the fact that their bill was demeaned. The kids were upset about that aspect. The parents were upset about that aspect. It was the Planned Parenthood remark that has people really incensed. But that's the floor debate in the State House.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say I think it was an apt analogy, and I think the only problem I have with Warren saying it is, sometimes you do have to, with kids involved, you have to kind of watch it a little bit.
Well, aren't there kids there all the time? I mean, don't people bring classfuls of kids all the time to there? I mean, that doesn't temper anybody's disposition by any means.
But it was their bill, so
I don't care about that specifically. I think it would have been nice if they saw the process, and it would have been nice if they had won their bill.
Right.
I think it would have, and I don't know. I don't. This is politics. I mean, we don't candy coat it by any stretch, and it's unfortunate that that's the way it rolled out. But that's what happens there. If you want to see how politics works, that's how it works.
Well, my main concern, though, or my main beef with this whole deal, is just like that bill that would have cut off cell phones in a moving vehicle faster than 5 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. At some point, you got to say this is stupid. That. Once again, we see politicians not willing to do the hard work of really going after the real high priorities in the appropriate time. And I would have judged this bill to have been very low priority compared to everything else that the state's looking at.
I would have put the Raptor bill way ahead of that. I mean, way ahead of it.
Way ahead of what?
Way ahead of the cell phone bill.
Well, yeah, but in the grand scheme of things,
yeah, sure.
Yep, it's still way
down.
Way down.
But I mean,
the problem is that the Raptor bill is just a time waste, feel good thing that we could do without.
Yeah.
The cell phone bill is far worse than that. It's a low priority from the citizens' point of view, meaning we don't want it. The problem is that the politicians, or some of them, do want it, and that's a big deal, and it has to be fought tooth and nail.
It's also very intrusive. Well, the Raptor bill doesn't do anything. It makes a bird a state raptor. However you say that the right way. The other bill, I mean, and that doesn't intrude on you at all. If you happen to be driving, you're like, oh, state raptor, big deal, right? Doesn't affect your life at all.
Unless you drive off the road looking at the state raptor.
Well, that's possible, but the state.
Hey, Mike, you need to move
cell
over
phone
just a
bill
little.
is very intrusive. They all are, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, yeah, but again, it's put the damn phone down and drive, not have the nanny state try to disable your passenger's cell phone so you can't navigate.
And I would say that if I was going to go after Warren for his comment, it would be regardless of whether or not the students were there.
You have to understand the story behind the story. Warren had been working on his own bill, an abortion bill, all year long, and he put a tremendous amount of time into this, and the Judiciary Committee, which is not even pro-choice, they're pro-abortion. They are the worst. There are only maybe 2 pro-life members and maybe 1 or 2 pro-choice members. The rest of them are very hardcore pro-abortion. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. They're very pro-abortion. They're for pushing abortion. They took his bill and they amended it, but they amended it in such a way that they would have made the law even worse to encourage or allow abortions even into the abortion process. And so his bill that was so important to him had just been torn apart limb from limb itself. Yes, it was.
By a raptor. Perfect.
By a raptor.
And so the compromise...
Turn around and do that again for the camera.
The compromise that had to be worked out was that it had to be tabled. And so his bill, as amended by the Judiciary Committee, is tabled. And it is, in its amended form, it is worse than the current law.
Great.
Well, it does happen, doesn't it?
So,
and I can see why, but I mean, he shouldn't take that out on anybody else.
I know, but there was no floor debate for him
Right.
on his bill. So what's actually gone through? Another bill that was tabled was an important one, House Bill 263, which would have prohibited residency restrictions on sex offenders. Now, this passed the Criminal Justice Committee 17-0, and the law enforcement lobby actually showed up and testified in favor of it. And what they were concerned that this is Representative Robertson's bill. I was asked to co-sponsor it, but I didn't. The concern was that a lot of convicted sex offenders, when they come out, they're kind of going underground, and that they're losing them. They want to know, the police want to know where they are. So even though it's, on one hand, it's once you've paid your debt to society, it's your right to live wherever. But at the same time, it was a public safety issue, and there was a concern that we don't know where they are. Now, Republicans still raised a concern, and the reason that Jim Webb stood up and tabled this, and the reason the House voted to table the bill, is there's a concern that a town wouldn't even have the ability to set up residency restrictions like right across the street from a school or daycare. And so that bill was tabled. They didn't want the debate. They didn't want the roll call. So they killed the bill. I believe Representative Hull had a bill to there were actually a couple of bills that went through relating to military and historical reenactments. Representative Welch, who's vice chair of criminal justice, and Thole, who's chairman of criminal justice, put this bill forward to require that people who are doing a reenactment contact not only the police chief of the town but also the fire chief, so that if there's a reenactment going on, every once in a great while people hear muskets going off and they think it's a drive-by musket shooting or some kind of parade, and people do the 21 gun salute and they think it's the crime going off. And so as soon as there are gunshots heard in New Hampshire, even if there's a firing range nearby, even if it's coming from the firing range, shooting range area, or someone's hunting or who knows what, if it's in the compact part of a town, which is 6 contiguous houses with 300 yards apart, any suburban area really, or even bedroom towns like Deerfield, people hear gunshots going off, they panic, they come from another state, they call the police, and the police have to send somebody out. And because of
I hear gunfire at my house all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's some woods and then another neighborhood and then nothing, and people go out there and shoot because they can. And every day during the summer, sometimes at night, I always hear gunfire. I'm just like, oh, shoot, somebody's shooting.
Yeah, and out my way, I hear shotgun blasts all the time because there's, especially in duck season or deer season, we're not that tightly built up in Hollis, and there are areas of woodland where they can go hunting.
In Seabrook, where I live, we've got 12 acres of wooded land behind my property. We have 2 different gun ranges in town. We have a very big gun culture, and then on the other side of the border there in Massachusetts, I'm on the border with Massachusetts, you have North Shore, Massachusetts, which has a high crime rate because the private citizens are disarmed. Only the criminals can get guns. So, you hear gunfire from the New Hampshire side, it's a law-abiding citizen. You hear gunfire. People, did that come from south or north? I kind of sounded like it was coming from east. So were those criminals shooting off guns, holding up a liquor store or something? You never know. You're looking at the clock. Was that the good guys or the bad guys this time?
I like that analogy. Gunfire in New Hampshire, legal. Gunfire from Massachusetts, criminals.
Right. Well, but the criminals down there don't care. So a lot of the gangs and a lot of criminals and career criminals, especially with property crime, they there's a ring of crime. They come right up to the border, and then they come right in within about walking distance. And since I live right on the border, towns like Seabrook have a lot of crime because the criminals take advantage of the border, and because firearms are effectively illegal in Massachusetts, they have a very, very high crime rate. Now, my bill, relative to the definition of deadly force, this was a very serious issue, and of course Representative Burt and Chairman Thole got up and they wheeled out the tired old ridicule tactic again, and they attacked my bill in the same way that on the same day, by the way, only a couple of hours after, the red tail hawk bill, some of the same people. Representative Burt did the same thing to my bill that he did to the red tail hawk bill. But Chairman Thole got up and he said something that was kind of ludicrous. He said that if my deadly force bill had passed, now this bill that I've worked hard on for many, many months was torn apart limb from limb like so many others. But it's designed to deal with a problem in the law where people hesitate and where under our self-defense law you have to get stabbed, you have to get shot, you have to get raped, you have to get run over, you have to get pushed out of a window or cut up before you can do anything, because you have to have physical evidence that you've been severely injured or mortally wounded before you can prove that you have the right to deadly force. So this bill was designed to kind of partially deal with that problem. And ironically, Chairman Thole got up and he lied to the entire State House. And he said that if this bill passed, you'd have to get shot before you could do anything. And apparently that's what was told to them in committee. Well, you can look at RSA 627 and you can see for yourself that under the current law, the only way to get evidence proving that you have the right to act in self-defense is to get stabbed or shot first.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the progressives would like, that you have to show real harm before you can defend yourself, which is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
Defense means preventing harm.
Well,
yeah, so it's time for a new phrase, guys. When seconds count, doctors are only hours away to testify about your injury.
Or mortuaries.
Mortuaries. No, you've got plenty of time to get there. Yes, we do. All right, are you going to stick around, or do you have to be somewhere?
I'll stick around.
Okay, because we have a guest for the next segment, Hal Shurtleff. You got the number right there. Give him a call. And this is Grok Talk. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.